classroom management and discipline. Those are two very hard topics to think about, to understand as a teacher. Like, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to have an excessive level of discipline? Am I supposed to be fair and gentle? What am I supposed to do at all? Like, as a new teacher or a teacher 3 years into it like me, or even beyond that, it's like, how do I discipline my classroom well? And even in today's atmosphere of teaching, where students have the shortest attention spans maybe ever, where authority in society is broken down so heavily, even just myself, when I was back in the classroom 15 years ago, it was like we respected our teachers more naturally, it seemed like. I was afraid to ever, and it might have just been me, afraid to ever disrupt class or something like that. But now it seems like that is kind of being challenged. We're being challenged as teachers. And so I'm going to go back to the 1700s. Not me, but we're going to look at some advice from the 1700s. Brother Agathon of the Christian schools. He was the superior general of this order, this brotherhood of teachers that the patron saint of teachers, Saint Jean Baptiste de la Salle, founded in France. In this work, this 12 virtues of a good teacher that he wrote for all of these teachers, these Christian brothers under his authority, he's wanting to make them into better teachers. And so his advice right here is going to be really strong for us. It's going to give us a lot of inspiration. So, Brother Agathon's ladder of discipline, as I call it, I'm kind of adding my own words to this and kind of standardizing it in a way that maybe when he was putting this ladder, he didn't have the actual diagram of it, but I did do that in my notes. And so we start out with procedure, level 0. It's before even the first one. You want to have that basis of classroom management be at that level 0 procedure. That should be your normal structure, your normal procedure. It's not even so much rules, but it's having procedures. Like, how does a student walk into class? What is the expectation for that student to walk into class, to sit down, to start on their work? That's where, good classroom management and discipline, that's where it works, at that level. Of course, you're going to have to go down the rest of this ladder, but you want to try to keep it there as much as possible. So those first weeks of school, that first day of school, it's so important to set those expectations for your students, to hold them to a high standard. If you hold them to that high standard, then they are going to be able to rise. If you set that bar low, then they're going to stay at a low level. Not only just in their behavior, but in their academics, in their formation, and how they treat one another and how they treat you. So, procedure, so very important. I'm going to have to make another video about that because that's a topic you could talk about forever in a way. But let's go with the rest of this ladder. You'll kind of see it in perspective. So, number 1, incapacity. If a student violates your expectations with natural human weakness, a student is kind of a natural talker and maybe they started to talk right when they shouldn't have been, maybe you did something I'll ring a bell or something in my class. If it's something where they were truly distracted, true human weakness, maybe you can excuse that. So you don't want to do that every time. You don't want to become a teacher who excuses everything, but allowing yourself to have some of that mercy is very important. And that's why it's very basic. So it's level 1, incapacity. Excuse it. If they say something that was kind of disrespectful to you or to another student, but they really didn't mean it. They didn't have malice in their heart. That's something you got to look for if they have malice. But if it's something that you can excuse with wisdom, and you can say to God, when you're being judged, I excuse that student to show them mercy. I could have rightfully, because they broke a rule, I could have rightfully disciplined them, but I'm showing them mercy. Very fine line. So, number 2, without malice. They're still without malice. At this level, you can give them a warning. Let's go back to step 1 for a moment. So incapacity, like maybe they talked like a split second after they should have been talking, but it didn't distract anybody. Like you really don't have to stop your entire class to discipline that student. Just excuse it. That's kind of allowing yourself some grace, to extend some grace. It's not making you seem like a tyrant to your students or a boot camp drill instructor, which sometimes I might have seen like that in certain ways. And maybe one time my student even called me that, like, you're like a drill sergeant or something like that. So I think like having that nice balance where you're not, and we go back to the faults of new teachers. John Baptiste himself says, don't get fixated on a single point. You don't want to get caught up with like those small things, because there's going to be bigger things. You need to know like what battle you want to fight. So step 2, it's developing a little bit, step by step, without malice. So maybe that student who was talking, they started to talk like for another 2 seconds, like it's actually starting to disrupt class a little bit. Like give them a warning. This is a gentle redirect. And at the end of this, I'm going to recap all of these steps, like how it should work, and give you a way to remember this, like as you're actually teaching, to remember all these steps in your head. Very easy. I've done it myself. Seems like it's very difficult, but if you remember this process, just wait till the end of the video for that. One disclaimer that I'm going to add for this ladder of discipline is that sometimes you don't always want to follow this ladder of discipline exactly as it is, like a ladder. Sometimes you want to jump from like the bottom step all the way to the top. Like if it's something serious, then you don't want to, like if it's, I don't know, violence or something. We can go over that. Like there's a fight happening in the classroom. You don't want to say, can you all please stop fighting? As if it's a level 2 without malice. Even though it's like kind of the first place where you're getting involved in this ladder, you want to jump in with prudence, like to a higher stage, like one of the highest stages in your discipline, where you raise your voice, you're very firm about it. You don't want to follow this ladder exactly all the time. It's good to keep it as a basis, but sometimes situations pop up where you need to move up the ladder more quickly. With that in mind, here is the ladder. But gentle redirect, so that's like level 2. If it's without malice, give them a gentle redirect. You can say like, please, can you stop doing that? This is the voice of a friend. And the next level is still going to be a voice of a friend. We're going to switch gears in a moment and go to the voice of a teacher, but this is still at the level of a voice of a friend. You're using words that are kind, please, trying to give them some redirection. Step 3, with malice. So they actually had some malice in their heart. You can see they're getting a little angry. They're disobeying kind of on purpose. You want to warn them sternly. Sternly. This is a firm gentleness. So step 2, you might say, can you please stop doing that? Step 3, when you see that it's with malice, you need to say, stop doing that. Don't say please, because that makes it seem like it's a little optional. Like, please stop doing that, question mark. You don't want it to seem optional when you're trying to warn sternly. So this is a firm gentleness. Firm gentleness. They go together. Okay, so you can actually start to like change your tone a little bit at this level. Maybe don't use maybe that warm and friendly tone that you would use at level 2 and maybe at level 1 even. But you do want to start to come closer to, and you're trying to stop yourself from having to go to that voice of a teacher. This is the next part where we're going into. The rest of these, you're going to switch gears. Your voice is going to be different. Your demeanor can switch a little bit. So let's just go into it. Number 4, with persistence. If they just got in trouble for talking, they're persisting in talking, that's when you want to reprove sternly. And so here is where it says, Brother Agathon lays this out, a severe look and voice. So like maybe at the warn sternly, your voice could be a firm, gentle voice. But at this level, it is like a command. It's an even greater command. It's not just where you're saying, like, you're cutting out the please. You're like, don't do this. But now you're actually going like, don't do this. Like, getting into it, this reproval, sternly. At this point, the student should recognize that you're no longer trying to guide them as a friend might try to redirect their friend. Like, John, can you please stop doing this? You should really stop doing this. But now you're a teacher. You're saying, with authority, stop doing this. And then, number 5, I like how it keeps on going. They still persist. If a student at that stage still persists, then it says threaten. Now, this is like kind of like 1700 language. It's not violently like, I'm going to jump across the classroom like a threat. It's not like that, but it is a threat where you say, if you continue, you are going to get a consequence. And it takes some prudence, like to know the student, like maybe you should say what the consequence is. If they're a student who, if they know what that consequence is and they're going to like start to break down because they hear those words, like maybe don't say what that consequence is. Like, even if you give the consequence, wait till after class, maybe like when in private, send them out in the hall where you can like administer that consequence in a good way that's for that particular student. So it does take prudence in knowing like how to administer this threat, but you do at this level, at stage 5, when they still persist, do want to start to add in those bigger consequences, actual consequences, before. You don't have to. So the steps 0 through 4, you're not putting consequences in just yet. I think as a new teacher myself, that was one of the things that was very difficult for me. I was wanting to like, and we have a thing like where we give points out. So like a point for talking. Every time that somebody would like break that rule of no talking when they're not supposed to, I would give a point like instantly. And it just seems like you're not giving them like that grace. But I think that's what's good about this ladder. You're giving them kind of this scale, and they can see the scale working in you. There's like this level of authority that you're applying at certain moments when it needs to be applied. That's very important, when it needs to be applied. You're not overstretching yourself too thin, but you're keeping that gravity as a teacher. You're keeping that seriousness, and it's helping develop respect between you and your students. More so, the respect your students need to develop for you, need to have for you. They need to keep that respect for you. So you don't want to appear as a tyrant with discipline, but you want to, back as our teachers used to do, I think they did this very well, at least my teachers were when I was in school. They had like always this like natural seriousness about them. So let's do that. And lastly, step 6, obstinate. If your student is obstinate, they are still doing what they're not supposed to do. Like, so maybe if it was talking, let's stay with that example. They persisted in talking. That's step 4, where you reprove them sternly with a severe looking voice. This is the voice of the teacher level. They still persist, so you gave them that threat. But then, step 6, they're obstinate. At this stage, it seems like they're not going to stop talking. They did not listen to that threat. They broke that threat. They earned for themselves that consequence. At this level, it's where you punish. The previous stage, you said you will get a consequence, but at this stage, obstinacy, that's where you administer the punishment. And I think for a lot of things, like if it's a severe overstep of just classroom order, of order for that student that they should have in their life, their life of learning, then you need to like call in the admin, send that student out of the room. Don't let them disrupt the entire class, because that just creates this atmosphere where a student is breaking the rule in obstinacy and there's no consequence for it. That's a very dangerous place. And I know, like, I've been there myself. I'll probably get there myself again in the future, but you need to like be aware that that's a bad thing. You don't want that to happen. So let's break down like these levels again. I'll give you something to remember. Remember, if you can remember this, and I'll do it 2 different ways. Gentle, firm, reprove, threaten, punish. So it's kind of memorize it, like sing a song if you have to. Gentle, firm, reprove, threaten, punish. And once you kind of know that, you can like write it out on your like clipboard or something. Like just write those words. Gentle, firm, reprove, threaten, punish. Like maybe the third day I kind of had that. I wrote it down maybe the first day, but the third day, or maybe like that second day, the first day in class even, I just wrote GFRTP, like an actual letter, GFRTP. And then as I was just like disciplining as normal, I would kind of look down there. I would be like, oh, where am I at? Where am I at right now? What do I need to do next? And kind of be aware of that, like with the situations you're handling. Like maybe you are running into something where a student is getting out of their seat every few seconds. Like you should be aware of kind of how you've interacted with that student. Like at first you noticed it was like incapacity. You give them an excuse. Then like maybe the next couple weeks, they know the rule by now. It's like the first month of school and they know that they shouldn't be getting out of their seat. But it's step 2, without malice. Give them that gentle, that warning, that redirect. Then when it is with malice, warn them sternly with firmness and gentleness. Then switch over in gear 4 when they keep doing it. So let's see. Step 2, it's really like the first time they did it. So that's without malice. Step 3, with malice. That's the second time they did it. But when it's the third time, when they're persistent in it, reprove them sternly with that severe look and voice. And then step 5, they're still persistent after that, where you actually reprove them as a teacher. When they were persistent, you switched over to your teacher voice. You reprove them, they still persist, give them one more opportunity. Say, if you continue, you are going to get a consequence. They know that, they're aware of that, and they have a choice with free will to make that decision. If they make a decision to do good, they can leave that class without any consequences for that day. But if they persist, then they enter that stage of obstinacy where it's time to act, to administer punishment, consequence, discipline. So, GFRTP, gentle, firm, reprove, threaten, punish. So, just try to think of that. Write it down. I'll put it in like the bio or whatnot. And just remember that. This is what Brother Agathon was recommending to his brotherhood of Christian educators. And around the world, the Christian schools flourished because of good educational philosophy like this. So, St. John Baptiste de la Salle, pray for us, the Sacred Heart of Jesus for the world for the Sacred Heart. If you want to talk more about education, leave a comment on this video, of course. You can also join our platform, CathEDU, Catholics in Education. If you're not a Catholic, you're still welcome. Where we're going to talk about things like this, how to become better educators ourselves, knowing our God-given vocation to be a teacher and to do it well. We don't want to be bad teachers. We want to be good teachers. So let us have a community where we're progressing towards that goal together. Thank you again for watching this, and may God bless you. You have my prayer as a teacher.